Hey guys, welcome to this question and answer session with the Pattern Trader. My name is Mark Shawzin, the Pattern Trader. I'd be happy to talk about the markets, take a few questions, and just chat about things in general. We had an inflation number today. Usually these numbers are a catalyst to move the market one way or another. The indexes are just churning at the top of their trading ranges. We had to move higher, we've had to move lower, and there's just a general churn in the indexes and just a general churn in just about everything else. The markets, I think, are in a pretty tough phase right now. So you've got to be very selective and probably keep your risk a lot lower than normal. I'm short the stock of Run, RUN. I shorted into a kind of a higher opening today. I do think that this thing is going to go lower. Michael says, for what stocks is your typical hold time? So, Michael, there's not typical, anything. By the way, thank you for signing up for our program. I saw that you signed up yesterday. So, thank you for that. I appreciate it. So, Michael, it's yeah, dog. I'm still short Dash. It's just thrashing around at this level. So, Michael, it really depends on a situational thing. So, I'm looking at the stock of RUN, Run. And I can't see how this stock goes higher. We've had a head and shoulders, a double top. We've had several key reversals. Yesterday, you had a key reversal. So I am looking for this thing to go lower. But, a number of stocks that I've been looking to short, VRTX, AYX, I think those are all still short candidates. But when they got into the support range, they just have now just banged at the bottom of the range. And it's quite possible that Run is the same thing, where the low was around 37 and you've just been kind of going between 37 and 43. I think this thing comes down longer term. And so to me, it's all about risk, where I can get in something. So I shorted into today's high around 43.80 using yesterday's high price, which is around 46, about $3 higher. So to me, that 46 is my risk area. And so now I'm just going to stay short the stock. And I think you have to be patient. I don't know what time frame this is going to work out in. It's still very possible that these stocks are just bumping along the bottom, and AYX, VRTX, they've just trundled along the bottom for a long, long time now. So, it's also a difficult environment to be short stocks. I mean, all of the GameStopification and, all these things. So, it's added another element to being short. So you want to be kind of careful. So the time frame really, it depends. I try and get in where I see the move is starting. Like DoorDash has got these reversals. It's got a couple of these inside day bars, and that 135 low. If that comes out, I think we're going to get a push lower. But in the meantime, we're kind of supporting in here. So the markets are just very, very range bound now. I don't really see anything that extraordinary, on the horizon. And so it just really depends on what you're looking at. And there's just nothing going on right now. The markets are very, very range bound. QuantumScape broke today. Went to a high of 32 the other day. Now it's at 28. This is in a downtrend, so I'll probably look at some point to hop aboard that downtrend again. It's just these meme stocks and these some of these stocks that are on the radar for these short squeezes. You just got to be careful. So very difficult environment right now. Pound New Zealand, I think, is also coiling. It's formed this very tight coil now between 195 and 197, and I think it's kind of de-risking. I think I've got long positions in Pound New Zealand, and I expect that over time. But I think this is the summer season. People start taking off, institutional plays start taking off. So we're just seeing much more range bound activity. And I'm usually playing for some kind of move from one level to the other. Maybe not a huge move, but I'm not trying to trade for 50 cents or $2 here and there. So It's just a banging environment right now, and I think patience is the key. Hey, Mustafa, how are you doing? Chris says I'm long QS. Yeah, I think that saw the end of its run. It went to 32, and I think my sense is that this is in a profound downtrend, and now I think we're going to resume the downtrend, Chris. So I would be very careful if you're long QS. What is the low on QS? QS is it's trading at 28.20. Today's low is 28.02. I would put a stop loss somewhere around there, buddy. I think this is going to go down and make new lows at some point. Ken says CRM. So I had a short out on that yesterday. I don't know. It looks like it's holding at this area. It's yeah. These markets are just locked up in these ranges. It looks like it should go down, and if it doesn't go down, it's going to go higher. So it's right at the top of this resistance line. And I never like to see a stock like it went lower today and now it's trading higher. So let's see how it closes today. Dash is still trading at the upper end of the range. So Mustafa, I got out of STEM. I did not like the price action the other day, where it just the day previous it made an all-time high around 35, and then the following day it went through the low of the previous day and then closed under the low. So whenever I see that, whenever I see a market go through the previous day's low and then close, I just clean my positions out. I was pissed. I was making a lot of money in that name, and I basically got out square. I was making about 150 grand, and I had a feeling I should get out because it at that point it had gone up every single day for like 2 weeks. So I was a pig. I should have got out of at least half my trade. I overstayed and ended up making nothing. So I'm out of STEM, Mustafa. What else are you guys doing? I was also, Michael, I was looking at Coop for a long time. And then I took it off my radar, and then it went down after earnings. And this thing looks terrible. This thing looks like it's going to keep going down. This has been on my short radar for a while, and I wasn't following it. And then it was down $20 on earnings a couple of days ago. So I think it looks like it's going to keep making new lows here. So I really like the stock of this run, RUN. It's in this consolidation between 37 and 46. It's just banging here, but I think it's coming down in a stair step. I think yesterday's reversal was a dagger in the heart of this thing. And I got pretty aggressive today. I started buying the 40 puts. And I might not make it because they expire next week. And this thing is in this consolidation zone, and all of these stocks have just, they've hit this zone and then stayed there. So, it's very possible that, we're just in this consolidation, but I kind of went pretty aggressive at RUN. And I think that thing's got to come down. Dash is still hanging out at the highs. I don't know what to think of it. Yeah, so Michael, I was lucky. I had DIA calls, and then I got out right on the high today. I wasn't making any money. I was losing about 20 grand on my calls, and I felt lucky to get back to even. So when it rallied this morning, I didn't ask any questions. I got out, a hair under about where I got in. So I got out of my DIA calls. So NASDAQ all over the place. I actually made a product, now being so. The indexes are really tough right now, Mustafa. Believe me, I'm the first one to jump in. I bought some calls in the Dow Jones because I saw a key reversal. I thought we might have a follow through. Yesterday you sold off, and then today you had, some action, and all I was able to do is get my money back, which I was grateful for just being able to do that. And I just think they're just in danger of going sideways. So you need movement one way or another, and all they're doing is backing and filling. So I don't know. It's really tough being in these positions right now. These stocks. It's you got to be very circumstantial. I'm looking at Tesla now by virtue of both what it's doing and also what it's not doing. So Tesla, in the last week or so, you've had this string of higher lows. And then, day before yesterday, it had a reversal. Yesterday, you had a little inside day bar. Today, you took out the high of the inside day bar. So you're actually stair-stepping higher. And I don't know if this is a trap to then explode lower, or, maybe we're, started. So I'm watching Tesla pretty carefully here. I want to see how that thing closes. And yeah, there's just nothing to write home about right now. The markets are in this kind of dead zone, and I need movement one way or another. Let's see what's going on gold. I've kind of not liked gold for a while. Now you've got a key reversal in gold today. I still feel like it looks like it's rolling, but you have these reversals, so I don't know what to think of gold. So the markets are just tough now. This is where you got to be patient and maybe not even trade. Sometimes you just can't trade your way through some of these these moves. You just got to just wait for your opportunities. So today, again, it's just very important how the markets close. Intraday, the markets are all over the place and impossible to trade that way. I always say don't trade 5-minute charts, don't trade intraday charts. What I do is I trade around the opening. I look for if there's an opportunity where I could get an advantage. So if I'm looking to buy a stock and the market's going to open way lower, then for instance, about 2 weeks ago in CrowdStrike, it was an area where I was looking to buy it anyways. So I was hoping that the market was going to open a little lower, give me a chance to buy it, and then what have you. And then instead, the market was, in the pre-market session, the Dow was down 500 and the QQQs were down 600. So we were going to get a huge lower opening. So what happened was CrowdStrike closed the previous day at 198. And then in the lower opening, it opened $8 lower at 191. And I thought, this is just the biggest gift, so that I used that lower opening, to establish my position. So it's not like I'm day trading. I'm using the daily bars and then just trying to find a strategic way, to get in those bars. And so I got an $8, opening. I started buying at the 191. It closed at 199 and then went to 220 after that. So sometimes you get these extraordinary opportunities, on the opening. And actually, I've been talking with my partner. I think we're going to create a program where, maybe I start at 9 in the morning, half hour before the market opens. And then we see if there are any of these, pre-opening gifts that we can take advantage of. And I'll talk about what I'm looking to get into, see where the market's, going, and then see if we can get in these pre-opening gifts. So I'll let you know if we do something like that. Let's see. Yub says euro pound. God, I haven't looked at that pair in a while. Yeah, it's very range bound. It looks like it's trending lower. It should go lower. Absolutely. Australia and US. So a lot of these markets have just gone to sleep. Yeah, Australia and US has been in a trading range since December. It's been at the same price since December. So I hate trading markets that have just gone to sleep. I'm going to wait, till it wakes up. I want to trade something that's going to give me, 150, 300 pip move. I'm not going to trade Australian and try and guess the next 25 pip move. So I'm not trading a lot of currency pairs. The only currency pair I'm really trading right now is pound New Zealand. I've just been long pound New Zealand. You know, when it goes higher, I'll be grateful. It could be a month from now. It could be 3 months from now. So Joey says, why do you have several accounts? I have several accounts for several different objectives. I have my conservative money. I have my play money. So I have, and then I don't like to keep all of my money in one broker. I don't like to have, something happens with the broker, what have you. So I spread my money all over the place. What else is going on? So Michael says, what made you start trading stocks before you traded FX? So I actually started out, Michael, my career as a stockbroker. I started out my career, I got my Series 7 license in the United States at Merrill Lynch. And then I got my commodities license alongside my stockbroker's license. And then I kind of went from being a stockbroker, to being a commodity trader. I wanted kind of the more of the action. And now, I look at I just look at asset classes. So I want to be where the action is happening. So right now the dollar is dead. So if I'm just an FX trader and I'm just trading the dollar Canadian or Australian US, then I'm confined to just whatever that market is giving me that day, that week, that month. And right now there's nothing to do in those trades. You can't even get a 10 pip move. So, if I'm just confined and restricting myself to being a dollar trader or an FX trader, and the markets have just gone to sleep in FX. So now I want to find some market somewhere that's awake. I don't care if it's natural gas. I don't care if it's gold. I want to find something that, is going to move. So right now, what I love about stocks is that you have 10,000 different stocks. Some are going up, some are going down. There's always a setup somewhere. Where FX, you've got 10 trading pairs, and, if nothing's going on there, then that's it. So I'm just looking to go where I can find a move. I don't care where that move is. So Paul says, yeah, I understand. It's hard to understand what I'm saying. And when I open myself up to the program, I'll show you. If I'm looking to short a stock, let's say you had a big key reversal. Well, you did in run yesterday. You had a huge key reversal, went to 46, closed around 43. So what I want to do is, I want to wait for a higher opening. So let's say it opens like $1 in my favor. Or $1. Let's say it opens $1 higher. Even though I want to go short, to me, I'll short that knowing that it has to go through unchanged or go lower. And then I'll use that, short. So let's say it's up $1 and then the reversal yesterday was $2 higher than that. So it's kind of, cut down my risk a little bit, but I'll use the high of yesterday as my risk point and use the leverage of a higher opening. So if the market opens higher, I can get in $1 higher, and then, let's say collapses $4 from there, then, I can get in a good entry. Now, in the case of Dash, I really shouldn't have been in this thing because my entry, to my elite traders, I always try and say the market should confirm what you're looking at. So in the last 2 days, I've had an entry order in Dash at 135.50, and it hasn't really even hit that. So if you followed my instructions, you would never even be in Dash. I kind of jumped the gun. I got in early. I got in around 140, and now it's trading against me about $2 higher, 142. But I jumped my entry, and that's why I like the market to confirm what you're looking at. So sometimes and Dash wasn't a great example of this thing. It's like CrowdStrike when something gives you a huge disparity. Like sometimes Tesla will open $20 one way or another, outside where it closed before. And it's just going to close that gap at some point. So I'll use that pre-opening price. I can maybe buy Tesla $20 lower or sell short $20 higher, knowing that at some point, when it opens, I can maybe make $10 right on the opening. So sometimes there's these extraordinary opportunities just on the in the pre-opening that I will use. But more often than not, I also like to confirm what I'm looking at. So Joey says, can we join the elite program for like half a year? Uh, yeah, I mean, I think a year is the minimum because Joey, we want the whole point of that program is to have people focus for the long run. And so, if money is the, issue, just, we'll work it out with you. Just send an email to Zach at the Pattern Trader if you're interested in our email in our elite program, and he'll work out something with you. Farron says, looked like QS is holding. QS is going through the lows. QS is on the low of the day, so it's not holding at all. Oh, folding. Yes. I thought you said holding because somebody was long today, Farron. So I kind of, yeah, no, I think QuantumScape is going to go back in the direction of the trend. So what you've been having, is a gamification of the markets. You've been having, traders just focus on companies that have large short positions. And that's the only reason they're buying the stock is to try and force those shorts to cover. And for a lot of things, it's been working. But when it stops working, all of these things are going to crash. I mean, GameStop is going to go back to $50. AMC is going to go back to $10. These things are way out of whack. But, they could stay out of whack for a long time and you can see these huge moves. So I think QuantumScape, is in a massive downtrend. And today, I think you're just continuing now back in the direction of the major trend. So yeah, QuantumScape is folding. I'll probably look like I'll short that pretty soon. Nailish wants to know about BLL. Yeah, I mean it's in a support area. I don't know if I wouldn't kind of be inclined to do anything. This thing looks like it's put on a pretty big double top long term. It's in a support area, so I imagine it's just going to kick around this price area for a while. So I wouldn't be looking to do anything on that. Michael says, what would convince you to start trading cryptos? So Michael, for me, everything is about risk reward. So it's not about entry and how much you're going to make. So people always think in terms of, how much can I make on this thing? To me, the way I set up really, really big trades is when I become very comfortable with the risk. And the problem with, if you didn't buy Bitcoin at 3,000 last year, now it's trading at 65,000. Now you're in a bit of a FOMO, fear of missing out. It's like, it goes from 40, now it's 45, now it's 50, now it's 55, 60, 65. And now you're thinking, should I get on board this thing? But then, at the same point, I'm saying, okay, if I buy at $65,000, where's my risk? I'm not thinking, okay, if I buy at 65,000, maybe it goes to 500,000. For me, I'm thinking, what's my risk? And I could not understand my risk on that trade. And if you can't understand the risk, then you shouldn't do that trade. So trading isn't about entry and thinking how much you're going to make. Trading is, okay, if I get in here, what is my risk? And if you're really comfortable with the risk, then the rest is going to take care of itself. Where it's going to go, how far it's going to go, what time frame it's going to go, those are kind of unknowable. Like pound New Zealand, I think is going to go higher. And so I'm getting more and more comfortable with my risk in here. I can, start getting more and more positions, get comfortable that the risk is being dialed out. And now if it takes another month to go up or 2 months, I don't know where it's going to go from here, but I'm getting more and more comfortable with my risk. So to me, cryptos it's kind of in the middle. You have these huge parabolic moves. Now you have this crash. And so I need to see some area where it starts grabbing a bit of a foothold, where it looks like maybe there's, some support. There's a little double bottom here. Like, I'm looking at Ethereum, And, it looks like there's some double bottom support here at this 2,500, but it's also got a case of these lower highs. So if Ethereum started, getting above 3,000, then maybe I would take a crack at it. I would have to put my risk at 2,000. But right now it looks like a case of lower highs, and it looks like these things are just dribbling lower. So to me, trading is also always about risk. It's not about getting involved in all of the emotions and stuff that you hear out there, all the FOMO. It's getting comfortable with risk, dialing into an area where you feel like you have the smallest amount of risk for the biggest amount of upside. And that's how I've made my biggest trades, where I can see very, very small risk for an upside that is 5 times my risk. So that's what it's all about. It's not about, hearing something on the news and, going in, let's see how that works out. Dog wants to look at Plug. I think those stocks had their day. Now it just looks like they're in a funk, and yeah, this thing looks like it's going to head back lower. I wouldn't touch it. So Joey says, on the elite program, do you trade every week? So I don't trade for the sake of trading. Sometimes I say there's no trades at all. So I just look at, high quality setups, risk and reward setups. And the elite program really is also designed, Joey, as an educational. So, after a while, I want you guys to be independent. And so it's just seeing my thinking, seeing how I analyze, seeing how prices line up on the chart. And even if it doesn't work out, over time, you learn from the losses, or you learn from the things that didn't work out. So you start forming a thing of, where to, understand where the traps are, where the opportunities are. So it's designed as an empowering, liberation tool. It's not a signal service. It's not designed to, like a managed account where it gives you trades and you just mindlessly take those trades. What I really want to do is have you understand price structure and, my thinking on how I create these entries. So, it's all about the highest quality trades. Sometimes there's 3 in a day. Sometimes there's none for several days. So Mustafa, thanks for that support. Michael says, do you personally journal all of your trades every single day? Yep, I do. It's a habit I got into about 10 years ago. It keeps me on the straight and narrow, keeps me focused on the things because, my screen just lights up, and then, all the emotions go off and you want to chase all of these things. And so what I try and do is do my homework at the end of the day where the market's not moving. I just look at price structure. I, look and see where I want to get in something, and, try and be focused to that discipline. So today, my one focus is run. And right now the price action is, not really favorable. So what happened earlier in the day, it opened unchanged, went lower, and then went higher. That's kind of the opposite of what I want if I'm short. So if I'm short, what I want to do is have it open higher, sell into that open, and then, start dribbling, going lower through unchanged and going lower. I don't like to see something reverse against me, but I think run, I just have looked at this thing, and I have to be very objective. I took a massive position, which then starts making you lose your objectivity. And run was the same thing yesterday. It had a massive, move higher, looked like it was going higher, and then reversed, close on the low of the day. And that key reversal told me that I think it's all over. That, it might take a little time, but I want to stay very short this stock. This is like, I've made like a half a dozen plays this year where I pick one trade and I really put my head down. And I think this is one of those trades where I can't really see a lot of risk from here. But let's see how we close. I don't love this price action right here. Chris says, what do you think of ZM? I've been looking at ZM. It's had so much resistance at this 340. And it feels like this is an inverted head and shoulders. And the more it kind of gets to this 340, eventually the old resistance is going to become new support. So this actually feels pretty constructive in Zoom, that I would be inclined to buy. So like for instance, if we close here today in Zoom, at 340 and a half. So let's say tomorrow Zoom comes in down 80 cents. I would look at that as an opportunity. I want to buy this thing. Now, it's, down 80 cents. I would buy into that and then use today's low as an anchor, as my risk. So, I look at the setup on the long term and the daily, and just because I'm trading, it looks like intraday, that doesn't mean that I'm looking at some 5-minute crossover. I'm seeing the bigger picture. I'm seeing that this thing looks like it wants to push higher. And if I can get an advantageous entry tomorrow, I would probably take that trade. But it all starts off by, understanding what you want to do in that trade from a bigger perspective, not on a 15-minute chart. So now I'm looking at, Zoom. I mean, it's in a downtrend. The patterns indicate that it's lower, but I think you could have, a short covering move that takes this to, 380 or 400. So I will take those counter trend moves. I mean, it looks like there's a solid base here. You had a double bottom at that 275, and it looks like you kind of got this inverted head and shoulders. And just the fact now that, it comes back to 340, this has been a rejection area. But now 340 seems like, Zoom is consolidating and holding this area. So what became old resistance to me feels like new support. But let's see how we close today. I'm not going to do anything intraday in Zoom. Once it's kind of the range is established, I'll leave that alone. But I'll have that in my mind tomorrow. If Zoom opens $1 lower in the pre-opening, I'll be buying at $1 lower. But let's see where Zoom closes. It's all about the close. We're 4.5 hours away from the close. So this is just conversation. Where these markets go intraday, it's all over the place. I was looking at Run yesterday, and, it was tearing higher most of the day. And then in the last 15 minutes, bang. Same thing with Dash. DoorDash was trading 139, 140 all trading session. And then by the end of the thing, it closed at 136. So the market's all about like the first 45 minutes and the last 45 minutes. All this stuff in between, this is where, you lose all of your money. You trade this 5-minute chart. You're looking for some magic Bollinger Band crossover. It's bullshit. It's just gambling. So I like to look at the structure and then set my prices, my stop losses around the structure. Yoni says, can you please take a look at Pound New Zealand? So Pound New Zealand, Yoni is every day. I think it's de-risking. It's just coiling. So I bought some more the other day, and it's in this 4-day coil. So the last 4 days trading range has just been, one on top of the other, but you've got lower highs. I think if you were super aggressive, I would just put a buy stop above today's high and keep buying more. So I think this, 196.5 to 198, just a little turbulence in here, but it's slowly drifting higher. So I like Pound New Zealand a lot. You know that. It's a carnival ride, but I think over time, this thing is, going to go higher. So Paul says, my broker set Run to long only. Yeah, so it's a pretty obscure name. So, sometimes when a name is not on my list, I call up the broker and ask them if they can find the stock. They borrow it from another client. They borrow it from the clearinghouse. And sometimes they'll do it, and sometimes they won't. I have some broker that's very conservative, and if they don't have the name on their list, they won't do it. But I have another broker that I work with, and they really help me out. They go and get my, whatever I want. They go and find it for me. So Kirby says LVS is falling. We looked at that yesterday. I think that's a short trade. It's going to go down. Why is this not updating? Yeah, so LVS is leaking. I think that, looks like it's going to go lower. Meantime, DoorDash is drifting back up to the highs here. I do not understand the price action here. DoorDash had a key reversal many bars back. And sometimes those bars, you don't see them in your mind, but they're there. And, it kind of told me that maybe there was a kind of a kibosh on the other side. So if we start taking out today's highs on DoorDash, I'll just get out of my trade. Kirby says, should have bought puts when it jumped up a bit today. Yeah, Kirby, it's, when I buy puts or what have you, is like I like to see some point on the chart that, I get some kind of recoil. So this is somewhat arbitrary. It could keep falling, but it's already fallen quite a bit. So the energy is starting to drain out. What I prefer to do is have some move, higher and then sell in, buy puts into that. Because, puts, even if the market goes quiet or stabilizes, you start losing value very quickly. So for puts and calls, you really want to buy them at a point where, so today when run was moving higher, so run closed at what, 43.20, and so when run was like 43.80 or so it was going higher. I was buying puts into that higher move, thinking that this thing is so weak that so I bought into that recoil. You pull back the elastic band a little bit. So I bought my puts when the market was actually moving higher. If you buy puts when the market's moving lower and then you get in and now the market starts moving up, then you lose so much value so quickly. So, for puts and calls, I like to try and create, get an entry where I've got some counter reaction. So I get in where the market is moving kind of counter to the direction that I'm looking at so that I can then get some through. And I'm not saying that this isn't going to work. It's just that this is, gone kind of straight down for several days. You're in this little support area. And now if it just hangs out here, your puts start, losing premium. So Chris says, is QS a good short now? I'd say yes. Yeah, it's dying. Yeah, I would say so. So, but I don't like to chase things intraday now. You've already got such a large range. So now if you short it here, it could go up $1 and mean nothing. So I would prefer to let this thing close. And again, hopefully tomorrow, wait for a higher opening. So let's say it closes here at 28. And then in tomorrow's pre-opening session, you get it trading at 28.70. I'll start shorting into that, higher opening. So, this is just FOMO. I mean, it could drop out of the sky. It could drop $5 from now, and I'd be pissed because this is a name that I've been shorting a lot. I've been waiting for a short, and probably the sensible area was put a sell stop right under yesterday's high, which was kind of a bit of a key reversal. So my big play right now is RUN. And you can buy the 40 puts for about 70 cents that expire next Friday. And I don't know if I'm going to make money on that because it's there's a lot of support here between 40 and 43. And even though I think it's going to go lower, it could just still kick around this area. So I'm going to need something to happen there. But I'm also short a huge amount of stock, and I'm just gonna hold that. Yeah, so a lot of brokers, Paul, I think are risk adverse with all of this, these meme stocks and gamification, and people are just being killed on shorts. Like QuantumScape went from 25 to 32, and at the time, I kind of said this is a terrible looking chart, but I could fully see that there's going to be a short squeeze in the stock, and I kind of said to Mustafa, who's on this program, that don't short it in here because I could see this thing going to 32 to 35. Even though I think it's going to go to 10 long term. So, I think these brokers are just a little risk averse, being, just And Run is a pretty obscure name. So yeah, so all of the air is coming out of this these meme stocks. I think QS. Let's see, what is AMC is down big today. GameStop is down huge today. GameStop's down about $70 from its high yesterday. So these are just BS things. These meme stocks. These kids think they're being clever. I think it's institutions also just manipulating the market. But don't buy into that. A stock ultimately has to reflect its underlying value. Tesla can become a part. Tesla was 1,000 times earnings, but you knew it was a real company that eventually could grow into its earnings. But, AMC, their business was a dinosaur business before COVID. People stopped going to the cinemas before COVID. So it's not going to get any bigger now. So nothing's really changed. So these things are just going to end up they're going to collapse. Lance, so how do you spot a short squeeze? Lance, I don't, like Beyond Meat, I made it just a tremendous, it's like, so Beyond Meat, it's hard to explain, but what happened was Beyond Meat had this long-term multi-year neckline around $113. And earlier last year it went to $200, and I was saying to all our members or whatever that it has to go under this trend line. Once it tests something so many times, it's not a sustainable bottom. So I knew it had to come back down to this 113, and eventually it crashed from 218 to 113, and it went below this thing. And now I'm saying, if this was such a bearish thing, once it crashed through that neckline, now the market should continue going lower. And so Beyond Meat went to 100 and then started to it stopped going down. So for like 10 days in a row, you see, it poked around that $100 and then it did a U-turn and then it came back up through the neckline. And I go, this is not acting right, and just by virtue of it not going down, what doesn't go down is going to go up. And, I saw it go up. Then I saw I had a little inside day bar, this little coil bar. And on that day, I felt in my water. I started buying. I bought 700 calls. I bought 5,000 shares. And, the next day was up $6. And then the next day was up $25. It was just a short squeeze. So you can't really tell. It's just by virtue of what something doesn't do as much as what it is doing. So if it crashes to a new area and then starts curling back around, all of those people who chase those lows get trapped. And so it's a bear trap. And then, short squeezes, when you go short in the market, you have to borrow the stock. The broker has to lend it to you. So in order to cover your short position, you have to buy. You have to buy back in. So it's a double whammy. You've got people who are buying, and then the shorts who have to, cover their shorts buying also. So nobody's selling and everybody's buying. So guess what's going to happen? But, I don't know if there's a way you could tell that. There's just markets go to certain levels. They go to a new high or they go to a new low, and then they come back down, makes a new high and then comes back down and then traps all the people who chase that high. So, you get these bear traps and bull traps, and there's no way to tell per se. It's just very situational. So Mustafa says, on our LEAP program, we sent out an email the day before it exploded to buy BYND at 120.50 on a stop. And, anybody who bought that, it went to 152 in 3 days. Michael says, for AMC, it's not a short squeeze per se. The market makers are selling over the market to buy the stock. Yeah, so there's all kinds of, it's called a gamma squeeze, Michael. There's all kinds of things, but believe me, it started out as institutions being, heavily short the stock at $3, which I don't understand because your whole upside is $3. But at the time, AMC on a fundamental basis, balance sheet basis, looked like it was worth 1 cent. So I guess if you're short at 3 and it goes to 1 cent, you make a lot of money. But if you're short at 3 and it can only go to 0, your upside is also unlimited. So that's what we saw, is that hedge funds were short up the wazoo, at $3. And then people figured they could play the game of just stepping on these shorts, that if the shorts were squeezed enough, now they can't just look at the fundamentals anymore. They got to look at what's happening, and now they got to cover these positions. And then it created like a feeding frenzy. And then it got into a gamma squeeze and all these things. It becomes a financial machination. It doesn't really matter what. I never care about the reasons why something's going up or going down. You're either making money in it or you're losing money in it. And so the reasons are superfluous. Connie says, can you look at dollar Canadian? So yeah, these dollar, trades have just gone to sleep. The dollar's got a little support in this area. So I can imagine. I got out of my dollar Canadian a while back just because I saw some long-term support here. It's just hugging the lows. I mean, you could have an 80 pip, uncoil out of here, but I would, short any material move out of here, but there's nothing going on. There's just nothing going on. So, hey, Joan, yeah, Run isn't listed with a lot of brokers, I suppose. It's just a pretty obscure name. So Michael says, yes, good philosophy. I don't care why it's going up or going down. So this is all about price. It's all about being objective. I'm watching these things, lights are flickering, guys are talking to my screen. There was an inflation number today. There's a whole argument, is inflation transitory or not? What's the Fed going to do or not? And we can get caught up in all of these things, but, it makes us sound intelligent at a cocktail party, but it has no value in trading. Trading is all about risk and reward. And so, it's kind of the old, joke. A guy calls up his broker and the broker goes, I've got some good news for you and some bad news. And the guy goes, well, okay, give me the bad news first. He goes, well, your stock crashed and you're pretty much wiped out. And he goes, oh my God, what can possibly be the good news? He says, well, the stock's down on lower volume. So it doesn't. The reasons why it happened, you either lost money or you made money. Why it went there, that's, it's not even relevant. The markets are, a discounting mechanism. They move ahead of, the news or events, and you just got to look at price objectively. So I think, this run, in my mind, there's no way this thing can go higher. But, it's kind of sticking around here, but I still feel I got to be objective. It's up for the day. It's really not good price action. I don't like something going lower and then trading higher, because that's like a key reversal in the other direction. But I just look at this thing empirically, and it's got every bear pattern, every price action that I kind of look for. And now I just gotta all this back and forth for the next 3 hours, I just gotta put it out of my mind. Yes, Mustafa, run is sun run. Lance says, feel too risky to buy at all-time highs. Yes, that's the only way to make. So, sometimes, Lance, going with the trend is the right way to go. If you're in a trend, then I just look for ways to stair step, in that trend. And then, the patterns tell you when the trend is about to end, when it's going to reverse. So it's just like these stock markets, maybe viscerally it feels like, this has gone too high, but I wait for a pattern to emerge to tell me that and I'm just think of a level saying, okay, well, it feels like it's too high. So let's see. So Kirby says there's heavy short interest on BYND. Yeah, it's just BYND is kind of, I don't know. It had a little inside day bar yesterday, and it's kind of falling underneath that. So maybe this is the end of these short squeezed names. You can't just go with the flavor of the month. And look, I took a ride with BYND. I saw a spot to get in, but there again, it was all about understanding my risk. When I got in BYND at 121, I was buying in the pre-market, because I knew this thing was going to take off. I was buying at 121, and the previous day's low was 116. So in my mind, that's where my risk was. So I went in understanding my risk, thinking about my risk, and then where that thing was going to go, nobody knows. And then, it opened at about 123, and I could feel this thing was going higher above that inside day bar. And then I started buying the 125 and 126 call options. And then that day it closed at about 127. So it was up about $6 for the day. And so I got in well, and I knew where my risk was and now where it was going to go. And then that night I'm watching TV with my wife, and I said, I just feel like Beyond Meat's going to go up $30 the next day. I just feel like it's in one of these short squeeze deals. And that's what it did. It went from 126 to, 152. So, and my call options went from about 155 to 23. So not too bad. Gareth says, pound New Zealand is still bouncing up and down. No new lows. So long-term, we're going back up. Yeah, so Gareth, pound New Zealand is just coiling. The longer it coils, the bigger, the push. So it used to be pound New Zealand had 500 pip, risks. Now it's kind of being dialed down to about 200 pips. So I feel like if you get in at 196.5, put a stop at 194, you should be able to stay in that trade. I think that it's gonna keep going higher. So Mustafa, yeah, I was, I had long these Dow calls long from 2 days ago, and then yesterday I got killed. And then today in the push higher, I just got out and basically got my money back. So, these indexes are, the path of least resistance is higher. It's hard to short them right now. It's hard to short them. Well, let's see what happens by the end of the day. So the close is very important, but right now they're just bunched up at these highs, and I don't see a huge calamitous fall. So for me to take bets, on puts or calls, I want to see that I can make 3 or 5 times my premium. So I need to have a move. I just, these little moves where the markets now are just bouncing in very tight ranges. That's, you're not going to make money on options doing that. George says, do you use a stock screener? So I look at, the earnings calendar. So I try and look at all of the companies that are going to announce earnings that day. So that always gives me a great list of names to look at, whether now or in the future. Sometimes I'll bet on an earnings outcome based on the stock chart. And I've made a whole lot of money doing that. I've also lost. And then I use something called FinViz. I think it's FINV. I spent like 2 hours on that the other day. Spent like a couple hours, and I really couldn't find a whole lot. I go through, hundreds and hundreds of stocks to try and find that one that I can tee it up on. So Joey says, what is the annual return on your elite program? Again, Joey, I think you're thinking of that not in the manner that it's intended. So the elite program is an educational tool. It's not a signal service. It's not a managed account. And I should keep track of the trades and the performance, but I don't intentionally. Because I could, at one point I was less than 50% correct in my trades, I think for all of 2019. And yet I made so much money. And so it's really not a correct way of looking at it. Where, I can lose 5 out of 6 trades, and on that 6th trade, I can make 7 figures, which just dwarfs the losses of the previous 5. So to me, the intent of the elite program is to educate. So I sent out that email on Beyond Meat before at 120 and a half. I put out an email to buy it. Mustafa and others who get that email got that email. And then the stock ran to 152, 3 days later. So now you have to figure out what is the value not only of that move, but what is the value of that knowledge so that you can spot another Beyond Meat in the future because you learn something from that setup. So to me, it's self-serving. It sounds self-serving, but what is the value of knowledge? So people say, well, if your elite program is $5,000 a year and I only have $5,000, then I can't really join. And that's fine. And I don't need you to join. But the question is, what is the value of knowledge and information? And I've been sitting here making, all kinds of mistakes for 30 years. And if I wish I could have found something like me, it sounds arrogant, but, I fell prey to so many potholes until I kind of figured it out. And it took me 40 years and, in front of these screens, kind of figuring out not only how to capitalize on the moves, but how to stay away from certain things that are traps and pitfalls. I probably should have stayed away from Dash. I didn't heed my own kind of warning there. So Joey says, if you're guaranteed to make a profit the year after, then I find that more than enough. So this is not about guarantees. This is not about financial performance. We don't make all of those, kind of assertions. But frankly, if, you took my trades, in the last 3 months, I don't see how you couldn't have just hit it out of the park. I was buying Lyft at 44, it went to 65. I was shorting the NASDAQ in February at 334 in the Qs. It went to 300. I was shorting QuantumScape at 41. It went to 24. So, you guys just have to decide what the value of that information is. Kirby says, do you ever spread the big call or put move? So I should be a little bit more, smart about what I do, Kirby, because you can take off the cost of a call by, buying a put or an out of the money call against it. I don't really do that. The way I use options is entirely based on the underlying. So I'm looking at run and I'm saying to myself, there's no freaking way this thing's going up. So, if I can find a cheap option, and I don't know if these were cheap per se, then I'll use, so I'm both short the stock of run and I'm long the 40 calls that expire next week. And I might not make it on the 40 calls just because there's so much freaking support in here. But I know if I hold this stock, one day I'll wake up, this thing could be at 25 bucks. Could be 6 months from now. It could be whenever. But there's no way this thing's going higher. So I will use puts and calls when I think I know what's happening in something and the timing. And so I feel that, the timing right now in run is pretty good because I can't really see it going much higher. So even if it doesn't get to my strike price, if it goes down $2 tomorrow and my calls go from 70 cents to $1.20, I might just take off some, and make 60% of my money in a day. I just feel like getting in here that my timing is pretty good. And so you have to, with options, you have to be right and you have to be right now. So with my stock, I can just hold the stock. The options, I have to be right by next week. So Lufrey says, it's been a while since I've seen you. I've only been trading pound New Zealand at the moment. I was short Tesla at 604. We got stopped out at 611. I'll try again, but wait for the markets to come to me. So look for you. Saying about Tesla, Tesla's got this cadence of higher lows. Let's see what happens today. But, you had a key reversal 2 days ago. You had an inside day bar yesterday. And frankly, if it was going to go down, today, it should have taken out those lows. And it didn't. So it's got this cadence of higher lows, which if that holds, it could then translate to a move higher. So I'm watching Tesla very carefully in this area. I want to see what it does today. I want to see where it closes. I'm not doing anything in that name right now. Right now, my big play is I'm short run, which is I shorted it right around here. So that's the thing. When it opens higher, then I can kind of take, I won't say a free look at it, but I'm kind of like, I'm in at a higher level. I'm in right now. And, kind of let's see what happens here. I don't feel like I have a whole lot of risk. So that's my big play right now. And everything else is kind of just, I'm going to take a look at QuantumScape tomorrow. So if we, close at the low today at 128, and then tomorrow, QuantumScape's, up 70, 80 cents or $1 in the pre-market session, I'll probably short right there against that. So, wow. So Mustafa says my relatively small account of 7,000 pounds is now 25,000 since I joined the Elite January 21. Before I blew my account a few times, I lost about 30K trading badly. So Mustafa, that's awesome. I'm really freaking happy for you. So Michael, I think you have the right attitude. Mustafa says, thanks for sharing. I just joined the Elite, but my expectations are more about the education. So Michael, that's what you should be looking for is, so I made like $500,000 2 years ago buying Facebook call options. And it was based on a pattern that I'd seen 3 years before that. Ironically, it was a pattern that it was in the NASDAQ, where the NASDAQ had formed this reverse triangle. And then right at the apex of that triangle, based on a reversal, I surmised that it was going to fall through the bottom of that triangle and an equal measure from the high to the low of that triangle, it was going to fall below that. And I nailed the exact, I said it was going to fall to 3,900. It fell to 3,902. And then it made a double bottom and then went and made a new high. So now I saw the exact same pattern setup. Reverse triangle in Facebook where it went from $195 down to $150. Then it put a double bottom down at $150. I started buying the stock at 150. And then it went to about 165. I made about 120 grand on that stock move. And then it curled back around and dumped again and then put a key reversal. And when it put that key reversal, I then surmised that we were going to go make new highs in Facebook, even though the company was like in terrible trouble. Zuckerberg was being hauled before Congress, to testify, on and on, the price action. And I said at that time, it's going to go make a new high. And so when it was trading at about $160, I was buying the 185 calls for 30 cents, $25 out of the money. And it was about 3 weeks to go. So I didn't know if it would get all the way there. I thought it would get big enough so that maybe those 30-cent calls go to 70 cents or $1. They ended up going to $4.50. I made 15 times my money. But the point I'm making is that I made all of that money based on recognition of a setup that I'd seen 3 years earlier. So maybe you'll see something in my writings and you'll see something every day, but then maybe you'll see that same thing, 2 years down the road and understand the way that worked out. And then you'll be and then you'll load up and you'll understand what to do and make $500,000. So again, I'm not trying to tout one thing or another. I don't need to sell these programs. I don't need to. I make much more money in my trading business, in my own personal trading, than in my business. So people always say, well, if you're making all this money, why are you doing this? I really enjoy the markets. I enjoy giving back. I enjoy helping people. And that's why I do it. So in the meantime, all right, I think I'm going to end it there. I want to wish you guys a healthy and prosperous trading day. It's really kind of a mixed bag in the markets right now. Path of least resistance in this NASDAQ and the Dow looks, it's just higher. It's like as much as you want to fight it, Um, the Nasdaq is at or near high. S&P is, I think, made new highs today. It's trading right at a high, so very difficult to short these. There's no pattern or price action that suggests these things are going to collapse. So, that's the problem with also shorting stocks right now. It's the energy of the market is higher, and then you've got all of these meme stocks keeping people from shorting because they're just doing these short squeezes. So it's you just got to find your spots and be a little bit disciplined and wait for the right move. So it's a bit challenging right now. There's nothing that I see that really grabs me and suggests one thing or another. Yeah, and maybe this QuantumScape is broken, so I want to see where QuantumScape, if it closes on the low, and then I'll probably short it until a higher opening tomorrow. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks a ton, and I hope you have a healthy